My screen is visible.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Still not visible?
It's visible, sir.
It's visible, sir.
Okay, fine. What I am writing here, that also is visible. Just a line.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now we'll start doing this de Broglie's dual nature of radiation. So as I told you yesterday, de Broglie stated that radiation travels in the form of wave as well as in the form of particle too. This dual nature of radiation is not only, it is, I'll put off my camera. So this de Broglie's dual nature of radiation is not only for radiation, it is for matter as well as electron also. If they will be asking the dual nature of radiation, dual nature of matter, or dual nature of electron, you will be having the same answer. So, as yesterday I was telling you, MC is equal to H upon lambda. So P is equal to H upon lambda, or you can say lambda is equal to H upon P. Yesterday I gave you a question: calculate wavelength of an electron. How you will do this question? See, to calculate the wavelength of electron, lambda is equal to H upon MC formula will be applied. H is a constant, that is 6.625 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule into second. M is mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kg. And C is velocity of light, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Just take care that every quantity must be written there either in MKS system or CGS system. You can't write one quantity there in MKS system and second in CGS or like this. So all must be there in the same system. So that now you'll simplify this all and we'll get the answer there in meter. We get answer there in meters, whatever it is. This is joule into second, this is kg, and this is meter. So wavelength is the distance now. Wavelength is the distance. We will be getting the answer there in meter. So like this, we will be calculating wavelength of an electron or any other particle. This is constant. This, if they have not given, then obviously we will be using velocity of light. If any other velocity is given there in the numerator, then obviously it will be putting that value only. And this is mass of the particle that is here is electron. So in this way, you can calculate the wavelength of the electron. So this de Broglie's dual nature of radiation, what we did yesterday, is applicable only to microscopic objects. It is not applicable to macroscopic objects or daily life objects. It is only applicable to microscopic objects, microscopic particles, not applicable to daily life objects. So now this was about the de Broglie's dual nature of radiation. Now significance of de Broglie's concept. 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 So first significance of this de Broglie's concept is angular momentum in closed orbits are quantized. Means MVR is equal to NH upon 2 pi, where N will be whole number. It can never be fractional. It can never be this. N can never be 3 by 2 or 2 by 3 like this. So angular momentums of electrons in closed orbits are always quantized. That is, MVR is equal to NH upon 2 pi, where the value of N will always be a whole number 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. So
Sir,
this is
here N will be shell number or different, sir?
N will be the number of shell. N is always the number of the orbit. That's why when day before yesterday I was talking about the magnetic moment. There I wrote magnetic moment is equal to the square root of eta into eta plus 2 Vm. In Indian books, instead of eta, you'll be getting there. In Indian books and local books, you'll be getting instead of eta, you'll be getting N. But then it will be confusing. Here you are saying number of shell, and there that is principal quantum number. Number of shell is means principal quantum number, and here you will be saying that the number of unpaired electrons. So same notation you will be using into different places for different terms. So it won't be correct, no. So but in the standard books you will always get eta only. So this N is the number of shell or number of orbit, or you can say principal quantum number, or you can say energy level. All are one and the same thing. So angular momentum in closed orbits are quantized. So that is MVR is equal to NH upon 2 pi. Then second significance of this de Broglie's concept, the wavelength of the object associated, wavelength of the moving object will be inversely proportional to the mass. More the mass of the object, lesser will be the wavelength, lesser will be the distance covered by that object. So second significance of the Broglie's concept is that wavelength associated with the moving object, wavelength associated with the moving object will always be inversely proportional to the mass of the object. If object is heavy now, then it will be covering less distance, then its wavelength will be less. And if mass of the object is less, in case of microscopic objects, only mass will be less. Mass of the object will be less, then only wavelength will be more. So wavelength and mass are inversely proportional of any moving object. So this is the significance of de Broglie's concept. See, if you take elephant, if you take truck, if you take car, then the mass will be huge. So distance covered will be very, very less, that you won't be able to observe. So this was the significance of de Broglie's concept. So after this de Broglie's concept, we will be talking about the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. This was about like this. We will be doing many numericals. Just it's a matter of values only, calculations only. So. Now we'll be doing Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. According to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, del x into del p is greater than or equal to h upon 4 5. What this del x is? Uncertainty in position. What this del p is? Uncertainty in momentum. This is uncertainty in position. This is uncertainty in momentum. H, 6.6 10 to the power minus 34, Planck's constant, and pi is also constant. So this is a relationship. This is an expression for this Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. According to this Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, change in position and change in momentum of a microscopic particle can't be determined simultaneously with certainty. Listen once again. This del x is uncertainty in position, or you can say change in position. This del p is uncertainty in momentum, or you can say change in momentum. Uncertainty in position and uncertainty in momentum. H is Planck's constant, pi is 3.14. So change in position or uncertainty in position and uncertainty in momentum of a microscopic particle can't be determined simultaneously with certainty. So this is also for microscopic objects only. I'll let you know why for microscopic objects only. Not for macroscopic objects, not for daily life objects, not for elephant or car, etc. So Heisenberg uncertainty principle statement, how you will be writing: change in position and change in momentum of a microscopic particle can't be determined simultaneously with certainty. C, del x into del p is greater than or equal to h upon 4 pi. What del p is? Del p is m del c, mass into change in velocity. So in place of del p, we can write m del c also. See, what will be the relationship? What will be the relationship between del x and m? If m is large, then change in position or uncertainty in position will be less. Mass is large, so uncertainty in position will be less. Uncertainty in position will be less. What does it mean? It means uncertainty in position will be less, means certainty in position will be more. Position will be more, certainty in position will be more. So this uncertainty principle will become wrong now, because it is saying that change in position and change in moment can't be determined simultaneously with certainty. Means uncertainty is there. But if mass is more, then uncertainty in position will be less, means certainty will be more, certainty in position will be more. So this principle will become wrong. Like that, mass is also inversely proportional to del P. Mass is inversely proportional to del P. More the mass of the object, lesser will be the uncertainty in momentum. Uncertainty in momentum less means certainty in momentum will be more. So again, this will become wrong. So Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that's why only applicable to microscopic objects. Only applicable to microscopic objects, because if mass will be more, daily life objects will be having more mass, macroscopic objects will be having more mass. So if mass is more, then uncertainty in position and uncertainty in momentum will be less, means certainty in position or certainty in momentum will be more. So this principle will become strong. That's why this won't be applied. This del C is uncertainty in velocity, m is mass, and del x is uncertainty in position. Uncertainty in position. So h is Planck's constant, pi is 3.14. So they will be giving you values of this uncertainty in position or uncertainty in velocity. They will be giving uncertainty in velocity. Suppose uncertainty in velocity, suppose 300, and we'll be saying that it is 3% accurate. 3% accurate. So along with that value of the uncertainty in velocity, you will be putting 3% also. Like this, you will be putting values. M or del x, they might be providing you h is constant and pi is also constant. So you can't expect these values. This this they won't be giving you. This also they won't be giving you. And if it is related to light, then this also they won't be giving you. So just only out of these two, any one value they will be providing you, and will be asking you to calculate the second one. So just only mathematical part is there, and this derivation also. And see one more very important thing. If you will be writing numericals now, if you will be calculating numericals, then in numericals they will be, then in numericals we will be putting equal to. In numericals you will be calculating this value and will be writing equal to. So just please take care. There you won't be writing greater than. There you will be writing equal to. So this was about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Now next is shapes of orbitals. Now next is shapes of orbitals. Shapes of orbitals, or we can say shapes of subshells. See, before starting this shapes of orbital, I want to make it clear that what is the meaning of directional in chemistry. What is the meaning of directional in chemistry? I don't know what the meaning of directional in maths and physics is, but in chemistry, directional means see. Directional means see, this is pen. Pen is directional. What does it mean? Means if you change the direction of the pen, then its properties will get changed. You won't be able to write. Means if there is any change in properties by changing the direction, that means that object is directional. C, eraser. Eraser. If you change the direction of eraser, properties will not get changed. It will be erasing the written content. So that is non-directional. One more example I would like to give you so that we can understand this, what the meaning of directional is. See, cricket bat or any bat, if you change the direction, badminton racket, if you change the direction, then properties will get changed. Now you won't be able to play it properly. But what about the ball? If you change the ball or shuttlecock, if you change the direction of the ball, then also properties will not get changed. So eraser is non-directional, ball is non-directional, pen is directional, bat or racket is directional. So if there is any change in properties by changing the direction, what does it mean? It is directional. And if there is no change in properties by changing the direction, then such materials are called, such objects are called non-directional. So this is what the meaning of directional or non-directional in chemistry is. Shapes of orbitals. So first of all, we'll start discussing about the shape of s orbital. Shapes of s orbital. You know what the shape of s orbital is? S orbital is spherical. How it is? Spherical. And as you have said, ball or spherical objects don't have any direction. So is non-directional. S subshell is no directional, is non-directional. Means if you change the direction of the s orbital, then also its properties will not get changed. It is non-directional in nature. Second is p orbital. P orbital is directional. P orbital
Dumbbell
is
shape.
directional. It's dumbbell shape. It's dumbbell shaped. Directional dumbbell shaped. And this is
Sir,
P.
but how is it directional?
Yeah, I'll tell you. This is P. This is PX. Nowhere it is written that first will always be PX. It can be PY or it can be PZ also. But by convention, X comes first now. So we'll write px, py, pz. And all these three, why you have written all three together? Because these three are degenerate orbitals. Degenerate orbitals means all are having the same energy. There won't be any difference in energy. So those orbitals which are having same energy are called degenerate orbitals. 3p and 3d are not degenerate orbitals because their energies are different. But all the three orbitals of p and all the five orbitals of d or all the seven orbitals of F are degenerate orbitals because their energy will be same. Now see, this is px along the x-axis now, then it is px, and if it is along the y-axis, then it will be py, and if it is along the z-axis, x, y, z, then it will be pz. So see, if you change the direction, if you change the axis, then properties will get changed. Pz will always be forming sigma bond, but Px and Py will always form pi bond. So sigma and pi bonds are two different properties now, are two different types of bonds. So because of the change in direction, properties are getting changed, or tendency of forming bonds are getting changed. If it is along the x-axis, if it is along the x-axis, if it is along the x-axis, then it is px. If it is along the y-axis, then py, and if it is along the z-axis, then it is called pz. So it is there on the axis, not between the axis. So px is along the x-axis, py is along the y-axis, and pz is along the z-axis. So along the axis, not between the axis. So just take care of this. So these three different, you are changing direction. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, and this one is z-axis. You are changing the direction. So their properties are getting changed. Their properties of, or you can say their nature of forming bond is getting changed. So p orbital is direction. One more very important point. C, always remember that you will be in the next topic, you will be doing that is magnetic quantum number. For Pz subshell, M will always be equal to 0. For Px or Py, it can be +1 or -1. It can be +1 or -1, but for Pz, M will always be equal to 0. For Pz, M will always be equal to 0, but for Px or Py, it will always be +1 or -1. So this is one point which you should remember, and we'll be doing there in the quantum number. So this is about the shapes of the s orbital and p orbital. Now we will be talking about the shape of the d orbital.
Sir, and here, sir, here we are having two lobes, no, sir, means one side and other side, both the sides bulged.
Yeah.
Sir, so is there any characteristics difference with each other, sir, each other lobes?
Yeah. If one lobe you have written bigger, then what does it mean? Probability of having electron in that lobe will be more. And in second lobe, the smaller one, their probability of having electron will be little less. So that's the probability only. We can't say that in this electron, in bigger one, electron is there, and in the smaller one, electron is not there. But the probability of having electron there in the bigger one will be more.
Sir, this is in along the x-axis, means on that x-axis line, or somewhere
On that,
around it, sir?
no, on that axis only. If it is between the axis, then it will be there in the, that you will come to know there in this next one. In the next slide, we will be talking about that. What is the meaning of along the axis and what is the meaning of between the axis? That we will come to know. Fine. Shape of d orbital. Shapes of d orbitals. d orbitals are directional, except s, all are directional, and double, its shape will be double dumbbell shaped. That is like this. C, in D, 5 orbitals are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square y square, and dz square. These all are double dumbbell shaped except this dz square, except this dz square. This is not double dumbbell shaped, it is donut shaped. It is donut shaped, it is cookies shaped. So just remember this one. The rest are double dumbbell shaped. This dz square is donut shaped or cookie shaped, and its m value will always be 0. As in Pz, m value was 0, magnetic quantum number value was 0. Here also, m will always be, magnetic quantum number for dz square will always be 0. Now we'll see how we'll be writing, how these all 5 are different. See, this is x-axis and this is y-axis. If between the x and y-axis, then it is dxy. If it is between x and y axis, not along the axis, then it will be dxy. If it is between the y and z axis, not along the, if it is between the y and z axis, then it will be dyz. And if it is between x and z axis, then it will be dxz. and if it is, this is x and y again like this. If it is along the axis, then it will be dx square y square. And if it is, this is z, if it is like this, then this will be dz square. So these are the 5 different orientations of d orbitals. This is dxy between the xy axis, dyz between the yz axis, dxz between the x and z axis. Along the x and y axis, then it will be dx square, y square. That's the difference between this one and this one. And in case of dz square, it will be along the z axis, then it will be there in the center. So in this case, as I told you, dz square will always be having m value 0. What about the dxz? dxz, this one, dxz and dyz, both z will be either having +1 or -1. If this will be having +1, this will be -1, and if this will be having +1, this will be having -1. So like this. And what about these two? These two will be having. Here I am talking about m value. Here in these two cases, m value will be either +2 or -2. If this is having +2, this will be having -2, and if this will be having -2, this will be having +2. So like this, m values are certain, and accordingly we have to write. So what I was talking about, dz square, one lobe, these two lobes are there. They are in one double is there in along the z axis, and this rest one, this second, is around the nucleus in the xy plane. This is around the nucleus in xy plane, and this one, that is two lobes are there along the z axis. So they can ask you like this too. So, and second one is around the nucleus in xy plane. So these were about this was about the d orbitals. And like that, we will be talking about the shapes of f orbitals. That's very complicated. Or you can say scientists still do not know the shape of airborne f orbital. It is complex shaped. It is complex shaped. So need not to bother about this all. F orbital. In F, 7 degenerate orbitals are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 degenerate orbitals are there. In some books, it is given that one is Fx, x square, y square, then Fy, x square, y square, then Fz, x square, y square, then f x y z, f x y z, then f z cube, f z cube, f z cube, then f y z square, then f x z square. So these 7 orbitals, they have named them, but their shape is complex, or you can say still their shape is unknown. Means it won't be possible for us to draw it clearly. So this was about the shape of the orbital. Before knowing the quantum numbers, we should know the shape of the orbitals. Fine. So from this also they can ask you questions. Probability of asking question from this plus minus value, and this already question was there on the shape of this. There then the plane or where the lobes are there along the axis or between the axis. So all these things they can ask you. So these were the questions in previous years they asked there in ITJW. What next is? Next is quantum numbers. Now, quantum numbers. As you know, my screen is visible now.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Still, it is not visible. Still, screen is not
No, sir.
visible. Okay.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Now,
No, sir.
still you are not able to see what I am writing there on the screen.
No, sir.
Okay. Now also not visible.
No, sir.
What happened? Now, also not visible.
No, sir.
Then also, now also it is not visible.
No, sir.
Now I think visible.
No, sir.
Still not visible.
No, sir.
Now, now it is visible. Now is it visible?
sir.
Still not visible.
Sir, you have not shared your screen.
No, I am sharing, but again and again it is getting changed. Now I think it is okay. Now it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So see, now our next topic is quantum number. That's very important and very big too, difficult too. So we should be very careful. And as you know, as you know, you are there in Bangalore. See, that is your vehicle will be having this number KA05 JL 4121. This number, this code represents a state. This code represents Jayanagar. That is locality. In Karnataka, it is like this, but in other places, this is a state and this is city. Then this will be year of manufacturing. Year of manufacturing. And this is the serial number in that year of manufacturing. Serial number. So this registration number is code number. This registration number is code number for your vehicle. This registration number is code number for your vehicle. That gives you information about the state of that vehicle, from which state it belongs, and the city, that is the city of that state, and then year of manufacturing, and then serial number in that year. those who are there into this to mobile this sell and purchase of automobiles, sale of purchase of these vehicles, they from their number only they can come to know about your vehicle. They can come to know everything about your vehicle. See, if it is coastal area, then the life of the engine or life of the vehicle will be little less because corroded, salty air, corrosion will be little fast. So resale value will be little less. So if it is early year or late year or mid year, from this number they can come to know. So from this code number of that vehicle, persons who are there, dealers who are there in this business, they can come to know everything about your vehicle. So like that, as your vehicle is having certain code number, electrons are also given some code numbers. So quantum numbers are the code numbers. Quantum numbers are the code numbers which gives you information about an electron. What information they provide about an electron? They provide you that energy of the electron, number of shell in which electron is there, number of shell in which electron is there, then the radii of the orbit, distance of the electron from the nucleus, volume of orbital. See, be very specific. Orbit you have written radii, because orbit is one dimensional now and radii is also one dimensional. Orbital is three dimensional, so volume will also be three dimensional. So orbit can't have volume and orbital can't have radii. Radii of orbit and volume of orbital. So first these 5 points: energy of electron, number of shell in which electron is there, radii of orbit, and distance of the electron from the nucleus, volume of the orbital. Then angular momentum of the electron, and shape of the orbital, whether it is dumbbell shaped, shape of the orbital, whether it is dumbbell shaped or double dumbbell shaped or spherical or complex. Then orientation of the electron, whether electron is there in dx or dy or dz, px, py or pz or dxy, dyz or dxz or dx square, y square or dz square, where electron is orientation of electron. And last point, spin of the electron, whether electron is moving clockwise or anti-clockwise, what type of spin electron is showing, that also you can come to know from this quantum numbers. So quantum numbers are the code numbers for an electron, which gives you this much information about an electron. See, grouping is important, man. See, grouping is important. This first is comprised of 5 information. Then next, this is second one, and this one is third group, and this one is fourth group. So see, in first group, 5 points you can come to know. That is energy of electron, number of shell in which electron is there, radii of the orbit, distance of the electron from the nucleus, and volume of the orbital. What about the second group? In second group, 2 informations you can get about an electron, that is the angular momentum of the electron and shape of the orbital. Then in third group, you can come to know about the orientation of the electron, and in fourth group, you will come to know about the electron, that is the spin. So these 9 points, these 9 informations about an electron you can get through quantum numbers. So quantum numbers are the code numbers for an electron. It provides you this much information about an electron. As registration number provides you this all information about your vehicle, your PIN code gives information about your, for example, 462001. Suppose this is your locality code number. So I'm just trying to explain you. I'm not sure whether what I am telling you is right or wrong, but I'm trying to share information. This is state. This is state, or you can say zone, South India, North India, or like this. This is zone. Then next is state. then next is city, and then last is locality. So I'm just trying to explain you. I don't know which which digit shows about the zone and which shows about the state and which one shows about the city or locality. But as pin code is your area code, your address identity, like that, quantum number is also the identity for an electron, and it gives this much information about an electron. These 9 points you can get from the quantum numbers about an electron. See, uh, first of all, you can classify quantum numbers into principal quantum number, that is denoted by n. Second quantum number can be, that is azimuthal or subsidiary or angular momentum quantum number. That is denoted by small l. Third is magnetic quantum number. Magnetic quantum number, that is denoted by small m. And fourth is spin quantum number, that's denoted by S. So for S subshell, for S subshell, for S subshell, L value will always be equal to 0. For P subshell, L value will always be 1. For D subshell, L code number will always be 2. And for F subshell, L value will always be 3. So these are the designations for different shells or subshells or orbitals or electrons. This gives you, yesterday I was talking about the Solna. This gives you information about the, as yesterday we were talking about home, then home is made of rooms, rooms are made of walls, and walls are made of cement, brick, and sand. So same thing. This gives you information about the shell. This gives information about the subshell. This gives information about the orbital, and this gives information about the electrons. That is what we were talking yesterday. So see, this first of all, Bohr introduced this principal quantum number. Principal quantum number was introduced by Bohr to describe an orbit. Then quantum mechanical model that we will be doing later was quantum mechanical model used these three quantum numbers, this one, and this one. These three quantum numbers, N, L, and M, to describe an orbital. Quantum mechanical model used principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number, and magnetic quantum number to explain about the orbital, to describe about an orbital. And the fourth quantum number, that is spin quantum number. Spin quantum number is the result of Schrodinger wave equation. This spin quantum number is the result of Schrodinger wave equation. Schrodinger wave equation. Result of Schrodinger wave equation is spin quantum number. So each electron in an orbital is identified by its spin quantum number. Laterwards, Bohr explained about this. Quantum mechanical model explained these three. Schrodinger explained the fourth one, and laterwards, all these four quantum numbers were there in the Bohr-Sommerfeld model. Bohr-Sommerfeld model explained all four quantum numbers. Bohr-Sommerfeld model covered all the four quantum numbers. So Bohr model covers about this one. Quantum mechanical model explain about these three. Schrodinger wave equation explains about the spin quantum number, and Bohr-Sommerfeld model, that is the most modern model about an atom, that covers all the 4 quantum numbers. It explains about all the 4 quantum numbers. Now see, one by one, as I told you, quantum numbers can be classified into 4 classes: principal quantum number, azimuthal or subsidiary or angular momentum quantum number. Then third is magnetic quantum number. Fourth is spin quantum number. See here, grouping is done. This first group, these 5, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Energy of electron, number of shell in electron, number of shell in which electron is there, radii of orbit and distance of the electron from the nucleus, and volume of orbital. These 5 properties are explained by principal quantum number. Principal quantum number gives you about the information. Principal quantum number gives you information about the energy of the electron, number of shell in which electron is there, radii of the orbit, distance of the electron from the nucleus, and volume of the orbital. So this principal quantum number, that's why I classified them into 4 groups. Principal quantum number gives you information about these 5 points, and azimuthal quantum number tells you about the angular momentum of the electron and shape of the orbital. This second number is related to the second number. So azimuthal or subsidiary or angular momentum quantum number gives you information about the angular momentum of the electron and shape of the orbital. And this third
Sir,
magnetic
so
quantum
can we
number,
write this MVR formula with azimuthal quantum number?
what?
Can we write this MVR formula with azimuthal quantum number, sir?
Yeah, you can write, but that's are 2 different things. Azimuthal quantum number gives you about the angular momentum of the electron. Here you will be doing the different thing. There it was different, but here you will be doing it in a
Sir,
different
but
way.
MVR equation is same, no, sir?
MVR equation is same, but so what? Angular momentum, to calculate angular momentum, there is not only one formula, so many more are there now. So like that, one is this azimuthal or spin, subsidiary or angular momentum quantum number. So that we will discuss there in different numericals how this can be done. N, L,
Okay,
M,
sir.
and S. N, L, and M, and S. All the values we will be doing there in the next class. So then magnetic quantum number, with the help of magnetic quantum number, you can calculate, you can come to know about the orientation of the electron. Whether electron will be there in dxy or dyz or dhz or dh square, y square or dz square. That we can come to know with the help of this magnetic quantum number. And a spin quantum number will tell you whether electron spins in clockwise direction or in anti-clockwise direction. That is the 4th one. So these 9 points already I grouped into 4, so that I can place them, locate them there in 4 different quantum numbers. So first 5 values are related to this principal, next 2 values are related to this azimuthal quantum number, next value is related to magnetic, and last one is related to spin quantum number. So this was all about the quantum numbers, and many more points is still to be discussed. Means theoretically, introduction related to quantum number is over. Now see, we will be one by one, we will be discussing about the principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number. These 5 points are already done related to principal, so we won't be talking about these 5 points. Rest we will be discussing. They are there in the next class. So principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number, angular moment, magnetic quantum number, and spin quantum numbers, and their numericals also we will be doing there in the next class. In today's class, 2-3 minutes, we won't be able to do it properly, so we won't be starting it, and in next class we will be doing this all. Fine. So that's all for today. In next class, we will talk about the quantum numbers, remaining portion of quantum number, and then we will be talking about the atomic models. Different atomic models which we discussed here, Sommerfeld, Bohr-Sommerfeld model, or quantum mechanical model, or Bohr's atomic model, and many more, Dalton's atomic model, and many more are there, Rutherford's atomic model. We will be discussing this all. So in next class, we will keep on doing this all. Fine. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Fine. Have a good
Thank
day.
you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day. Thank you.